Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today. It's Coram and Ed Carson here with a breakdown of the action in today's session, where we did get some news hitting the market midday, but we did recover a bit by the end of the session with the Nasdaq leading the way with a decently strong gain today, Ed.
Yeah, that's right. Definitely an up and down day, but positive once again. Want to take a look at MercadoLibre, which broke out today, Pure Storage, which keeps on teasing a buy point, and Albemarle, which had a wild, not so positive session.
Yeah, some lessons there. We'll get to that. And first, let's take a look at the major indexes. The Nasdaq up 1.5% by session's close. Same for the Russell 2000 small caps. Also pretty strong today. We have the S&P finishing up 0.9%, and the Dow, which has been leading the way higher, Ed, today lagging up just 0.2%. So all in all, a pretty decent close. What do you think?
Yeah, we got a boost today. We really were strong at the open when we had positive inflation data. We also had Walmart earnings, which were well received, but we really didn't go much beyond that. We sort of stayed there, which would have been fine if we stayed there, but sort of drifted lower, especially on some of the other indexes. And then we sold off hard here. The Dow actually turned negative. S&P might have just flirted with it. What happened is that there was reports that Russia missiles hit Poland just across the border from Ukraine. It's unclear. This is not confirmed, and even if it is confirmed, if it was deliberate, was it accidental? Was it Ukraine shooting down the missiles and then they head into across the border? Yeah, because there were some targets that Russia may have wanted to go, and they were hitting all sorts of targets in Ukraine today. So in any case, there's always the fear that something like this will turn into a wider war, and then you start worrying about nuclear weapons. So that's the kind of existential threat that's hard to price into the market.
Right.
So we came back down.
Algo's triggered on keywords missiles hit or
yeah, missiles hit.
Missiles
hit NATO member. How about that? Yeah, that's not. So I mean, don't laugh about that, but we came back a little bit, and you have to argue that even if you set that aside, we've been running up for quite a while now. Had a number of strong days. You can say that the backdrop inflation picture continues to improve, so that's something you might say is a positive. But we've moved up the S&P, and I'm glad you have that. That's key, because you can see what happened on August 16th. We came within 1 point of the 200-day line, and everything turned bad after that for a while. So we're coming up to the 200-day line, and so that is going to be a key area. The Dow and the Russell are above the 200-day line, or I believe, the Russell is above that. And the Nasdaq still moving toward that. A lot of the big cap techs are still lagging and so on. But the S&P getting above that would be a key area. Now, if it paused, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think that's something that right now, if investors are thinking about it, this is a market where people should be taking advantage of things. But maybe right now, you shouldn't try to step on the gas. This might be an area where let's just see how things go. Or be very judicious in your ads.
Yes, totally agree. Very methodical and very, very disciplined at this time. Given that we have run up, we don't want to be chasing the stocks that broke out, and are now extended. So let's see what opportunities there might be. And not only do we have that potential resistance at that 40-week line here on the weekly chart, we've got 4,000 for the S&P 500, and also a declining tops trend line that pretty closely coincides with those are the areas we've bumped up against. So with that being said, Ed, whether or not we do pause here for a little longer, which would be constructive after the strong week that we had last week, if we do get a strong move above some of these key levels, if and when that happens, how significant would that be?
I think it would be very significant, because that would be like the 200-day line, and some of those areas getting above that might really suggest it's not just a tradable rally, but that we may have real room to go. That, again, the market could pause wherever it wants, but these are key levels, and breaking through that. And we're also seeing more stocks. A week or so ago, okay, there's a few stocks to buy, but now there's more of them. There are wider areas. There's a lot of stocks that are setting up. So we break through these areas, and you're going to start seeing a lot of interesting stocks presenting themselves.
Okay. Well, we'll have to see. That's something that we're keeping a close watch on. Also, we like to keep tabs on what the 10-year Treasury yield and the dollar are doing. So, 0TNX here on MarketSmith tracking the 10-year yield coming off a bit and now below that 50-day line for the first time in quite a while, Ed.
Yeah, so that's nice to see. That's clearly a big driver. I mean, as inflation concerns, Fed rate concerns come down, then maybe the Treasury yields can come down, and that's really propelling the market along with the dollar. And the dollar is weakening in large part because yields are coming down.
Yeah.
So they're both sort of getting to like multi-month lows on that, and well, stocks are getting to multi-month highs. You can look at a lot of different things, but ultimately it sort of comes down to that right now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, on the individual stock front, we want to highlight MercadoLibre, ticker MELI, stock of the day. Not only that, but it also joined leaderboard and swing trader. So I think it's pretty safe to say the team thinks that this is a promising stock here. Doesn't mean it's going to work, but it checks off a lot of boxes.
Yeah, a lot of boxes. I mean, there is a handle there. This isn't showing up on markets because pattern rec doesn't show handles on, generic consolidations, but that's clearly a handle. It broke out, volume ended up being positive, and actually, while it's not huge volume gain, there's been a lot of blue spikes throughout this consolidation, really, but especially recently. You look at the growth rate. That's pretty strong. And okay, look at the 4 and 4%. That's partly because presumably there's going to be earnings this quarter versus a year ago loss. So it's going to be a huge annual gain. So that's going to really start bringing that PE down. It looks like pretty solid growth next year. So there was a lot of boxes. The RS line at consolidation highs, right around 8-month highs or so. So lot to like about this one coming up. As David Ryan pointed out in today's IBD Live, this one moved up. There's a bottoming base. You don't like to see the bottoming base right near the bottom. This one had a strong uptrend.
Yep.
And then consolidated, and that's something that we like to see with these kind of bases.
Yeah, and also getting above those key moving averages there. And we've got a round number here right at 1,000. It's a psychological level. It's something that we often reference, and maybe some people are like, why are you referencing that? Because maybe they're a little newer. And hey, if you are new. But those are psychological levels that a lot of traders look at. So in addition to looking at moving averages and just other areas of price resistance, which in the base coincided with resistance, those round numbers do often have some significance said.
Yeah, it's sort of self-fulfilling. It's an important level, so people treat it like an important level.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, and next on our list, let's check out Pure Storage, PSTG. Closed off highs, but still up 1.6% for the day. And today's gain comes on the heels of yesterday's move up in strong volume. Did get rejected a little bit at this technical entry there of a handle, but it's moved up from that bounce at the 21 days, so that's positive. And even though the group rank leaves a lot to be desired, there are other things that are compelling about Pure Storage. I know something that you've been looking at is the PE of some of these stocks, in addition to stocks that have promising growth.
Yeah, I like the promising growth, relatively decent valuations, which I know we traditionally don't care about. We've cared about more in this past year.
The market's cared about it more.
The market's cared about it. That's why we cared about it. Yeah, and it's not far from highs. I mean, a lot of these stocks that are traditional growth stocks or aggressive growth, they are way off highs. And I'm not saying, this has had some consolidations for sure, but there's nothing like that. And so there's that. I like to see that. It wasn't the greatest action, but on a weekly chart, it looks a little better. It's making that progress. It's right above
3 weeks tight in the handle.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and 3 weeks tight in the handle, and it's so there's some tight action there. It's sort of a right at early entries. Like if you go back to a daily, it's sort of like just above some short-term levels that were there for a few days, or like the meat of the handle. So that was a place you could have entered. So it's not going underneath there. As long as I think it holds above the 21-day line, this is still a legitimate area. So would like to see it really break through. Hasn't happened yet. So, but still worth watching here.
And we've got 2 weeks until earnings, so it seems like if it's going to get moving, needs to make it happen
Good
before
point.
earnings get too close, so you get that profit cushion. All right, and last but not least, Albemarle, ALB in the lithium space. A lot of lessons here. Where do we start, Ed? I mean, we did see an upside reversal for the stock right after earnings, clearing an early entry, which our team was all over. And if you didn't get it that day, which it didn't have the strong price gain and strong volume. Maybe it was the next day. But for those who waited until 11:11 to get into this one, I mean that's an example of why you don't want to be chasing stocks into strength when they're too far extended from proper buy points.
Yeah, and that goes triply for something like Albemarle, which has big
Yeah.
swings. It just does. You can look at that chart. There's all sorts of choppy daily or weekly action.
Right.
And while it's made a nice move in 2022, it's been a bumpy ride. So
Right.
there was early entries that would have at least protected you from, you could have taken
Profits.
early profits, or you could have, at least or sold out here today and maybe not really taking a loss. If you didn't sell and you bought around that trend line or around that short-term high, I guess you're still in the green now. I mean, it was a wild action. It's hard to know what'll happen. This is doing better, looking better than some others.
Mm-hmm.
Not, so it did bounce. It did find support. So it's not one you want to give up on. But there was just a report, hey, lithium prices fell pretty sharply because of concerns that maybe prices will fall more at the end of next year, which seems crazy to have that kind of 14% intraday drop just on speculation that maybe. But that's the nature of this stock. That's the nature of this group. So definitely want to be careful with your entries. And take profits when you can, and don't let those big gains go away.
Right. Because here's the thing. Again, I feel like those early entries are so important because it puts you in the position to be able to take something into strength. And then I feel like that can help you withstand a day like today. Maybe we're sweating it intraday, but if you already locked in a profit and you have a stop where you are still going to exit the trade either flat or still positive, worst case scenario, that can help you withstand the volatility and maybe hold off. What we like to say is, if you can, it's not always possible, but if you can, wait to make your final sell towards the end of the day, because stocks may end up finding that support. I feel like if you did wait to buy into strength and then hadn't taken anything off the table, it would have been hard to justify waiting on when you get a huge uptick in volume on a 14% decline.
You certainly could have taken, if you'd taken like a third or a quarter profit near the top as it sort of was getting extended, then you sold maybe another third when, okay, you've given up all your gains, from the early entry. And then maybe you could say, I'm holding the last third. So you've made a small profit net on the first 2/3, and now you're up a little bit. Yeah, that's much easier. I guess one more lesson is that don't get too concentrated. I mean, if you had bought a bunch of lithium stocks and that was your portfolio, that would have been really ugly. And the same thing if you bought cloud software, there's a lot of sectors. Some of the biotechs,
together.
Yeah, the medicals, which have looked so strong, so stable, they had a really bad Friday.
Yeah.
So, again, those may all do fine, but if you have a whole portfolio that's all connected, that can be really an issue. So look for a diversity within of leadership. That makes it easier to hold or easier if you have to cut bait.
Right, exactly, because that's the thing. We don't know. Just because it found support today, it's still a pretty big gap down. So we'll see. I feel like the jury's still out on this one. It could need more time at the very least to start looking better, or we could continue to see it. We'll have to see. All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. Lots of lessons there with Albemarle. Who knew that was like a fun little debate conversation situation, Ed. I liked that. All right. Well, make sure you tune in tomorrow morning, where the conversation, of course, will continue on IBD Live, investors.com/IBD Live for all the details there. We will see you then, and have a great rest of your day.